There are several different stages of ethical development that many people go through. Pre-conventional is someone who is very childlike and self-centered and selfish in their actions. An example would be a student decides not to cheat on his test only because he's afraid of getting caught, not because he feels that he would be doing anything wrong. Or if someone, let's say a woman goes into a store and she sees a blouse that she really likes, and she decides not to steal it only because she's afraid of getting caught. This is a very pre-conventional stage of ethical development. This is when a person does the right thing only because they're afraid of the punishment involved, not because they feel good about doing the right thing. When a person is in the conventional stage of ethical development, he or she is responding to the expectations of society or the expectations of, let's say, the company that he or she works for. For example, a man may make his decisions working at a company solely based on what is best for that business. Just consider the tobacco industry. There were several people within higher level management who knew the effects of nicotine and the toxins that were in tobacco, but in order to save their company and look out for the tobacco industry, they deliberately lied under oath. They perhaps knew that they were causing cancer and killing people, but they lied about it. In their own minds, they were being ethical because they were defending their company. And this was very indicative of the fact that they were in the conventional stage of ethical development. This is why you see people lie for the business that they work for. If you haven't seen the movie The Insider, I would highly recommend it. It's based on a true story of Jeffrey Wigand, who was a scientist for the third largest tobacco company in the U.S. The 60 Minutes producer, Lowell Bergman, got to know him, and he wanted Wigand to tell a story to the whole country of how this tobacco company deliberately was lying to the public and covering up the harm that they were doing. People in the post-conventional stage of ethical development are less concerned about how others will see them. The most important thing to them is how they see themselves. They want to be able to look in the mirror and know that they made the right decision. For example, let's say you own a used car lot and you just get a sporty car in. It looks great, but you know it's a lemon and it's probably going to break down within inside of a week. A young couple, newly married, comes onto your lot and they see the sporty car and they want to buy it. They're very excited, and you know you can easily make the sale, but you don't, because you know you tell them that the car is going to break down on them. Instead of selling the car, you decide what's most important is that you make the right decision, not selling them a lemon and lying to them. This is post-conventional. This is the post-conventional stage of ethical development. Businesses all have a great influence on the ethical conduct of their employees, and this is usually done by a trickle-down effect. Upper-level management usually sets the example and determines how employees are expected to behave ethically. One of the first things businesses are responsible for doing is recognizing unethical business actions. 2, they have to resolve ethical problems within their business. 3, they have to establish a formal code of ethics and also provide ethics training for their employees. Some different types of unethical business actions are taking things that don't belong to you, and they can be as simple as office supplies, or saying things that you know aren't true, telling people, for example, that layoffs are coming and it has no basis in fact, or a new person just got fired from their job and you tell everyone that it was for sexual harassment or for sleeping with the boss's wife when you know it's not true. 3rd, it's unethical to give or allow false impressions. For example, some employees have been found giving the impression that they have a degree or credentials that they really don't own. Number 4, it's unethical to buy, influence, or engage in a conflict of interest. An example would be someone accepting gifts from a supplier and telling them that they'll use them exclusively. Number 5, hiding or divulging information. An example would be an employee knows that stuffed animals are being stuffed with harmful items that are just taken off the floor, like razors and needles, and he doesn't tell anyone. That's unethical. Also, giving confidential information away about subordinates or divulging in trade secrets. This is a huge fear of high-tech firms like IBM and Microsoft, and even in candy bar makers like Mars. They have lengthy contracts with employees to make sure that they don't divulge any trade secrets. Number 6, it's unethical to take unfair advantage. For example, selling an item to a customer when they really don't know what they're buying. And number 7, committing improper personal behavior. This includes discrimination, being rude to employees or to customers, a pilot who gets drunk on the job. Number 8, it's unethical to abuse another person through sexual harassment. Number 9, permitting organizational abuse. For example, companies that have factories overseas, if they feel that they can get away with giving employees demeaning wages or using children as their labor or harassing employees because there aren't laws to prevent this. Number 10, violating the rules. This includes things like using the company car for personal reasons. And then finally, condoning unethical actions. If you know someone is embezzling funds and you don't do anything about it, this is also considered unethical. What are your thoughts on cyber slacking on the job? Employers are very concerned about the fact that employees oftentimes use the internet at work for their personal use. Of the time employees spend online at work, 1/3 of it is spent recreationally. So what are some ways to resolve ethical problems? Well, one way is through the 3-question test. First, is it legal? Does it break the law? Is it balanced? What that means is the decision you make, is it best for everyone involved? Does everyone get to equally share in the gains and losses? And then finally, how does it make you feel? If you make a decision and it really weighs on your conscience, maybe it was the wrong decision. Number 2, the front page of the newspaper test. If you make a decision and you knew that it was going to make the front page of the Daily News Miner, would you still make the same decision knowing that your parents might see it? Leading by example. Ben & Jerry's, when they set up their company initially, it was based on the idea that they would lead by example. They really believed that no employee should make 1,000 times less than the CEO of a company. And so they actually implemented this in their business. They wanted their employees to follow the examples that they set. And then finally, ethics training, actually laying out for employees what the expectations are for them when they start with a company. A survey was given to upper-level managers across the country, and they were asked, if you had a choice between an employee who was loyal and an employee who was honest, which would you choose? And overwhelmingly, they chose the honest employee, because sometimes an employee who is very loyal will not make the ethically sound decision, which in the end will get their company in more trouble than the honest employee would get them into.